Well, let's talk 007 first. I know you've been to see it. Do you think it's worth the hype?
Well, I don't like disagreeing with Public Enemy, but on this occasion I can say believe the hype. It's an absolutely fantastic film. Just to give you a bit of an overview for those who haven't seen it, it's basically about a botched mission, and James Bond is assumed dead. So back in London, MI6 is under attack by this terrorist hacker. He's hacking into MI6 database, taking undercover agents' names and releasing them on YouTube. So it's about whether Bond will come back, and save the day.
It's got a very modern feel. You mentioned YouTube there, and I know social networking plays a big part in this Bond film.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's the new Bond for the 21st century. I think that's what really appeals to the new audiences for Bond. Bond's been going for, 50 years. First Bond was in 1962, starring Sean Connery as Dr. No. So, I mean, you had to really bring it into the 21st century, so it's a good thing, to be honest.
And what do you make of Daniel Craig as Bond?
Daniel Craig, well, it's his third outing as 007. First he was in Casino Royale, which he did a really good job. Then he was in Quantum of Solace, and Quantum of Solace, generally it wasn't a great film, but Daniel Craig's performance in that was good. So this is his third outing in Skyfall, and if he was finding his feet in the first two Bonds, trust me, he's really found his footing in this Bond. He embodies everything about Bond. He's gritty, he's broody. He plays a character with so much confidence and swagger. For me, he's definitely one of the greatest Bonds.
Do you think we'll ever see a black Bond?
I heard you talking about the black Bond. I know it's been in the news lately and Idris Elba has been touted as a black Bond, but to be fair, they do this every few years. A couple of years ago, they were talking about Adrian Lester. He's in Hustle. They talked about him as a black Bond. Now they're talking about Idris Elba. To be honest, I think it's pretty slim that he's going to actually be a black Bond. But if anybody were to, he's the man of the moment. He's known in the UK. He's equally as known in the US. He's a great actor. So, I'd put him forward as a black Bond, to be honest.
Lots of talk of black British Bond girl, Naomi Harris of Pirates of the Caribbean fame. What did you make of the casting?
I think it was a stroke of genius, that casting, to be honest, because like you said, she's a black British actress. She's done great movies in the past, Pirates of the Caribbean, and she plays the role very well, to be honest, in my opinion. So I think that, it was a good casting move.
Next up, a film based on the story of African-American pilots during World War II. Tell us more.
Yes, so this is a film called Red Tails, just been released on DVD. Now, this is based on the true story about the first black pilots called the Tuskegee Airmen, who fought in the US Armed Forces during World War II. Now, the significant thing is that during World War II, the majority of people in the US were still subject to segregation. So that means even the black people in the US Army were racially segregated. So this movie follows these airmen in this Tuskegee flight training program, and they're actually called into World War II, into battle. Now, the film is directed by a man named Anthony Hemingway. Now, he directed TV shows like The Wire and Treme. So you've got a couple of the guys from The Wire in the show. You've got Tristan Wiles, Michael B. Jordan. You've got more established guys in there like Terrence Howard from Hustle and Flow. You've got Cuba Gooding Jr. You've got Method Man. You've got Neo. So, it's got quite a broad cast in there. And there's an interesting backstory to Red Tails, actually. The executive producer is a man called George Lucas. Now, he created the Star Wars franchise, Indiana Jones, so he's a big guy, he's a top guy in Hollywood. And the thing is, he's been trying to get the film made for 20 years, but he couldn't get funding because they had an all-black cast. So, he took the film to different studios and they told him no, they didn't know how to market a movie like this, i.e. a movie with an all-black cast. So in the end, he had to actually dip into his own pocket and fund the movie himself,
It's shocking to hear in this day and age that's still an issue.
It is very shocking, and it sort of echoes what another director, black director Spike Lee, has been talking about for years. He talks about racial prejudice in Hollywood. And the thing is, Spike Lee, he's not backwards in coming forward about talking about racial prejudice, and now when he talks, people probably take it with a pinch of salt. But the fact that George Lucas, a man of his stature, can get into these difficulties as well. George Lucas has made some of the most iconic films in cinematic history. Star Wars, Indiana Jones. You'd think if George Lucas wanted to make a movie about his pet rabbit, he could get funding. But it just shows the struggle of black filmmakers in Hollywood. So all that being said, Red Tails itself is pretty disappointing,
Well,
to be honest.
I was going to say, it's not been received very well by the critics, has
No,
it?
no, and it's easy to see why, to be honest. You know, I don't know whether it's because of George Lucas's background. You know, he's used to big blockbuster movies. You know, he tried to make this more of an action film. So there's a lot of the scenes are focused in the air. You know, a lot of CGI. A lot of these battle scenes, and when you get down to the ground, you know, this film should have been about the struggle of these airmen, you know, the personal journeys fighting against segregation, you know, racism, but it's more focused on the action in the air. And then when you get down to the ground and look at the characters, they're all very cliche, all very one-dimensional. You know, there's some bizarre storylines in there, like one of the airmen falls in love with this Italian lady and she can't speak any English, he doesn't speak any Italian, but they have this wonderful relationship, they fall in love. You know, it's all just a bit bizarre. So for me, you know, it's a story worth being told. However, you know, the filmmakers didn't really tell it too well.
That's a shame. Right, final film bringing together a cast of some of the most popular African-American performers around at the moment. It's called Think Like a Man, the likes of Kevin Hart, Megan Good and Chris Brown. Pretty impressive cast.
Yes, very impressive cast. Kevin Hart, very, very funny comedian. You know, he's doing big things at the moment. You know, and the thing is with comedians, they don't always translate into film very well, but he does a very good job. So he's one of the standout members of this cast. So yeah, the film is really essentially about a group of couples in LA who are dating, and you know, and the guys sort of flipped the script on the ladies when they found out that the ladies are using this self-help book in order to get upper hand in the relationship. So yeah, the film is essentially based on a book by a man named Steve Harvey. Now he's a comedian turned author. He's written several books, one of them being Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, which this film is actually based on. Another one being Straight Talk, No Chaser, How to Find and Keep a Man. So obviously his films are based on women trying to catch and keep men. And you know, it's a great movie. You know, it's a guy called Tim Story, he directs it. You know, he's directed things like Barbershop and Fantastic Four. And for me, you know, as soon as when I was watching the film, it got the feel of The Best Man. You know, another film from 1999 starring Taye Diggs, Nia Long, Morris Chestnut, you know, black affluent people, you know, having a good time, you know, and it really has a good feel-good factor about the film. You know, it's very funny. Essentially, the film sort of has a number of face-offs between the guys and the girls. You know, you've got your typical mama's boy, he's dating a single mum. You've got a dreamer guy who's going from job to job. He's dating this woman who wants a guy with a 6-figure salary. You've got the non-committer, you know, this guy who never wants to get married. He's dating the girl who's doing everything in her power to get married. And you've got the player, and he's dating the 90-day girl. She's following this 90-day rule, and I'll put it in her words, it's the 90 days, the amount of time she has to keep the cookie in the cookie jar, as she so eloquently puts it. They're her words, not mine. So yeah, it's a very, very funny film. You know, I can't really fault it enough. You've got great performances in there. Like I said, Kevin Hart does well. You've got Jerry Ferrera, he used to play Turtle in Entourage. He puts in a great performance. And the thing about the film is, it's got something for everybody. You know, as a group of guys, you can watch the film and get something out of it.
Megan
the same,
Good.
yeah, not just the ladies, but to be honest, yeah, it's a really good film. So you can watch it as a group of guys, a group of girls can watch it. You know, it's got something for everybody. Yeah, it's a romantic comedy, but it's not just for girls. You know, it's a great film. I recommend it 100%.